Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of the M-Wire Movie Week in Review. Today we are going to be discussing the Hulk and the Incredible Hulk in our Marvel Spotlight. I am TFG1 Mike, and as usual I am joined by Steve Megatron. Hello.
Howdy.
And along with us we have a special guest, David Double D Dennis from This Week in Geek, which this marks Dave's very first podcast outside of the Twig universe. Hello, Dave.
Hi, I'm finally stepping out of my own universe. Crazy. It's like when the Hulk fought Superman.
When did that happen?
I'm not really sure.
I was going to say...
I had a coworker that told me about this once, and he was like, I read this comic where Hulk fought Superman, it was really cool. I was like, are you sure? Yeah, it was awesome. Okay.
That would have been a cool DVD with the Hulk versus thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he actually was just making that up, or... But
you never know.
I don't know.
So
I'll have to check it out. I'll go on the internet and see if that's actually real.
Cool. So why don't you tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself? I mean, we all hear you talking on Twig every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is that you all are up to now. But who is the real David Double D Dennis?
The real David Double D Dennis just spent the last 4 hours cleaning our apartment. So that shows you how boring and down to earth I am. But yeah, I'm just moved out here with Mike and Stefan, trying to do our show and do our jobs at the same time, and writing stuff and being a generally crazy guy, I guess.
Speaking of crazy guy and crazy ideas, you I don't know, I think you put it on Facebook or something, or I'm not sure where you put it. You had an idea about Looney Tunes versus Capcom video game. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah. Actually, Capcom was having a contest for what should be the next Capcom versus idea.
Mm-hmm.
And my idea that I posted to them, I actually specifically made a Capcom.com account specifically for this, so that I could post my idea of Capcom versus Looney Tunes, which I think would be the coolest idea for a fighting game ever.
Oh yeah, that sounds really cool.
So you could have Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, Tweety Bird, all of them fighting Ryu or Jill from Resident Evil or whatever. It would be craziness.
Oh wow, I can imagine Pepe Le Pew fighting Mega Man. And it's funny.
Imagine your incredible fart attacks that you could employ.
Oh yeah,
possibilities in that game are endless.
Incredible flaming fart attacks.
Yes.
Oh boy. Actually, it's funny. My other show that I do, Steve has guested on it once before. It's Tooncast. It's dedicated to all the cartoons we grew up with, just basically discussing them. And the episode that we're up to now, coming up this Sunday, we're going to be recording episode 20, which will actually be discussion on the Looney Tunes. So, yep, had to save Looney Tunes for one of those big numbered episodes. Yeah, Steve's here as well. He's awfully quiet. He's over there tinkering with his computer because it broke on him, and you'll hear more about that in Headshot. Hello, Steve.
Hello again. Yes, I am a very irritated person as of late.
Yes.
I've resorted to using my wife's Windows Vista laptop, which is a little bit different for me because I don't really care for Vista, and all my crap is on a thumb drive, luckily, and as well as Skype. So I can't access anything on my tower until I figure out whether it's my motherboard or my case that's bad or some other random piece of crap. So, yeah.
Yes. And on that note, we're going to be getting into today's topic, which is the Hulk and the Incredible Hulk. We will be right back.
But I know one thing for sure. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. My son is unique. And because he is unique, the world will not tolerate his existence.
We are back, and today we're going to be talking about both of the Marvel Hulk films. The first one was in 2003, the second one, the reboot, was in 2008. Hulk, also known as The Hulk, is a 2003 superhero film based on the fictional Marvel Comics character of the same name. Ang Lee directed the film, which stars Eric Bana as Dr. Bruce Banner, as well as Jennifer Connelly, Sam Elliott, Nick Nolte, and Josh Lucas. Holy crap, Nick Nolte was in the... Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't remember that. I haven't seen this film.
Yeah,
Yes!
he was his father.
Oh, that's... Okay, that's right. The film explores the origins of the Hulk, which is mainly attributed to Banner's father experiments on himself and on his son. Development for the film started as far back as 1990. The film was at one point to be directed by Joe Johnston and then Jonathan Hensley. More scripts had been written by Hensley, John Turman, Michael France, Zach Penn, J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams wrote a script for this film? Wow.
Yeah, why didn't they use that one? It probably would have been better than whatever the one that they ended up with.
Yeah.
Actually, half of this, or most of the scripts that came before the finished one were probably better than the finished one that they ended up using.
Yep. And also another name that I recognize that also wrote scripts before the Ang Lee and James Schamus involvement was David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake, wrote one.
Who we did an interview with him for Twig, so...
Yes, I would love to get an interview with him. Oh yeah, I'd love to get an interview with him. That would be so awesome.
And when I did the interview, I didn't know that he had wrote an original script for the Hulk. I just realized that today going through the research. Really? David Hayter did a version for this?
He's written... Nothing has really... Like, some of the stuff that he has written really hasn't come to light. Obviously, this is, the Hulk version. His Hulk version didn't come to light, but I've seen a lot of writing credits for him that just blow my mind. And it's like stuff that we know, and we know of it is like what it is now, and it's like, wow, what would it have been like if we had had a Hayter version?
Yeah, like the first two X-Men movies, which were amazing, and he had written basically the finished versions of them.
Yes.
So.
The film was released with mixed reviews and was a box office disappointment. Marvel Studios rebooted it in 2008 with The Incredible Hulk. Hulk earned $61.2 million in DVD sales, bringing its total film gross to $306,560,480. And okay, Dave, why don't you summarize the Hulk 2003 for us?
Okay, so try and remember what happened in this movie. I think the last time I saw it was about a year or a couple of years ago. It was while I was in college anyways. So basically, the whole thing has like this whole flashback that happens at the beginning, where Nick Nolte's character is like doing experiments on himself, and man, it's really hard for me to remember this. Somehow it ends up like he ends up accidentally killing his own wife, and then basically flash forward to the future where Bruce Banner, his son, like doesn't really remember anything about him or his past, and is working with Jennifer Connelly, who plays Betty Ross. Sorry,
Betty Ross, yeah.
Who I think they're ex-boyfriend and girlfriend in this one, and basically, like I said, it's really hard for me to remember this. Like he ends up like doing an experiment on himself or something that combined with what had happened to him with his childhood ends up making him into the Hulk, because the same experiment had ended up killing like all the animals that they did with testing on it. So
right.
And then basically his father reappears and decides to use the same kind of gamma radiation to turn random mutant dogs, and there's these giant like poodles that fight against him, which is probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a superhero movie. And then so he fights the giant poodles, he gets captured by the army, and then there's a really awesome fight scene where he's fighting all these like tanks and helicopters and everything, which probably in my opinion is like the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
And then his father, who has returned, basically experiments on himself again, turns himself into Absorbing Man, whose powers are kind of cool, but they're kind of stupid in the context of the film.
Hmm.
'Cause basically, he can take on the properties of whatever he touches.
Right.
So at one point, I think he kills a guy by like turning his foot into like a floor grate, which is just
Wow.
kind of retarded. And so basically, they end up fighting each other at the end. Both of them are presumed dead, and then it kind of shows the Hulk in South America, like he's still alive and he's kind of working as a doctor down there.
Yeah, I remember.
That's the main bit of what I remember about it. It's just
Oh yeah.
the plot for this movie is so convoluted; it's hard to recall everything.
Oh yeah. Oh, I completely agree. And I remember that actual that final scene, the South American scene, when he had mentioned something. Bruce says something to one of the guys that's talking to him, or whatever. He's like, "You don't want to see me angry or whatever," and it's like. I think that was probably the best part about this film was the way it ended. You don't want to see me angry, and it just leaves you off as a cliffhanger, like, oh wow, the Hulk could be back. You know,
Yeah,
Jennifer Connelly's performance as Betty Ross, I liked it. I think I enjoyed it better than what's her name in the new one. Oh,
Liv
crap.
Tyler.
Yeah, I like Liv Tyler. Don't get Liv Tyler's a great actress, but I don't think I think they should have brought Jennifer Connelly back for the Betty Ross role.
I
But that's just
I
me.
agree with you. I think Liv Tyler was really the only thing I didn't like about the new version compared to the old version. I thought Jennifer Connelly was the only character who kind of got it right in the first movie, and her acting was probably the best thing about this movie because she played Betty Ross just right, like where she was kind of calm, but there's kind of a dark side to her at the same
Mhm.
time. Whereas Liv Tyler was just a bit too, I don't want to say ditzy, but she didn't really have the edge, I guess, that Jennifer Connelly did.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree with you. She didn't at all really have the edge that Connolly did. Um, not yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I like Liv Tyler in other things, but a superhero movie, I don't know. She's just not the right type of actress for a superhero film.
Yeah, yeah,
And as I said before, you have pretty awesome cast in this. Eric Bana, Jennifer Connelly, Sam Elliott, Nick Nolte, Josh Lucas. Um, just great casting for the characters that they had to play with. For some odd reason, I always think of this movie, and I always compare it to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, because obviously they're both Ang Lee films. And every
yep,
time I see any part of the 2003 film, the only part I end up catching is Hulk leaping through the desert. And for some odd reason, I just think it's nothing but a Marvel version of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I don't know why.
yeah. It's kind of similar how he's jumping around, but like I said, that's probably my favorite part of the movie is when he's fighting in the desert.
Right.
That's like the only really, really cool part of the movie. Like if you're gonna watch this movie, just skip everything else. Just watch that scene because it's the only part that's worth it. The rest of the movie, it has it had such a good cast and a good director. The problem was the script had gone through so many versions that by the time it got made, it was convoluted. It had major pacing issues, and it just wasn't interesting. And one of the main problems was that the Hulk was not a hero in this movie. He doesn't really save anyone. He doesn't really help anyone. He's just running for his life the whole time. I mean, the only
Yeah.
part he does anything heroic is when he's fighting the giant mutant dogs. And again, that was kind of stupid.
Yeah, it was. And when they had the release of the DVD and they said, "Oh, you're gonna get like a multi-angle look at the dogfighting scene," and when I hear dogfighting, what I think of is like air dogfighting, like airplanes
Yeah,
having a dog fight in the air. I don't think of a giant green dude fighting, oversized poodles.
yeah.
um, let's
Like you
see.
think with the script going through so many different versions that, like, really stuff like that. Do you really need to have giant dogs fighting the Hulk in the finished versions of the script? Like, I don't know what they were thinking when they decided, okay, this is the version that we're going to make, and all the other versions before that we couldn't make them. Like, why? It just doesn't make sense to me. Which is why
Yeah.
Hollywood will always elude me.
Other than the fact that the price of admission is too much.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, anyway.
Well, okay, Mr. Michigan next movie star. Yeah, Numbnuts over here got acting classes or whatever. He's got himself offered acting classes from Michigan's next movie star. So yeah, the true Hollywood in California, the the price is way too high. As far as the release for this, Universal Pictures spent $2.1 million to market the film in 30-second TV spots during Super Bowl 32. Wow.
I think I vaguely remember that, actually.
That's too much money. Sorry. For as bad as this film is outside of the action scenes, that's too much money. Just weeks before the film's release, a number of work prints were leaked on the internet. The visual and special effects were already being criticized despite the fact that it was not the final editing cut of the film. Hulk was released on June 20th, 2003, earning $62.1 million in its opening weekend, which made it the 16th highest ever opener at the time. With a second weekend drop of 70%, it was the first opener above 20 million to drop over 65%. The film went on to gross 132 million, let's say 133 million in North America, and 114 million in foreign countries, coming to a worldwide total of 246 million. With the final North American gross of 132.2, yeah, I was right. Became the largest opener not to earn 150 million. Hulk also earned 61.2 million in DVD sales, bringing its total film gross to 307 million. I don't understand. If this movie is so bad, how the hell did people go out and spend $62.1 million on DVDs? How the hell did it gross that amount on DVD sales when everybody says it's so bad?
Because that was after everyone had seen it and knew how bad it was.
That's what I'm saying.
So, because it made sense that it made so much over the opening weekend, because no one knew what it was going to be like, and Marvel had spent a lot of money to market the film. So a lot of people went out and saw it, and then after that, it had, I think, one of the biggest drops, if not the biggest drop, after opening weekend in, like, cinema history, because everyone saw it and was like, wow, this sucks, and no one went to see it again, or was telling everyone else, don't go see this.
Yeah, it was a 70% drop, and it was the biggest drop at its time. But I'm not arguing the ticket sales. I'm arguing the DVD sales. Okay, say for example, all right, G.I. Joe just came out in theaters. It's coming out to DVD around the holiday season, I guess. I didn't like the trailer. I didn't go see the film. Even if I did go see the film and I completely hated it, I would not buy the DVD for it. I would not put any. If there's a franchise out there that I cannot stand, why would I go see a film of it take Harry Potter. I've never seen any of those films. I don't like them. I'm sick of the advertising campaign. I wish that they would just finish it up and just be done with it. But I'm not this type of person that's going to go out and buy a Harry Potter DVD just because everybody else is doing it. I don't understand why that this figure here for Hulk has, 61.2 million in DVD sales. If the movie was so friggin' bad, how is that DVD sales number even warranted?
I don't know. It did have a pretty good DVD compared to the actual quality of the movie. Like, I think it was a 2-disc version. It had a lot of bonus features. It seems like they put a lot of work into it.
Right.
But yeah, it's a weird kind of thing. Like exactly what you were saying. Why would everyone go out and buy that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I
Producer.
also found it strange that Roger Ebert gave this such a good review.
Yeah, Roger
But
Ebert
then
has.
I'm pretty sure post 1995, Roger Ebert just lost his mind. Because I basically disagree with everything he says.
Yeah, it's become a running gag on MWire to figure out which when I get the information from Wiki and I find the reception and the reviews and whatever else, and through our first like 5 or 6 episodes of this podcast, we looked at the Roger Ebert reviews of each films that we were reviewing, and the majority of them were all bad, and Steve and I and whoever else I had on the show at the time all thought that they were really good films. And it's like, what the hell is Roger Ebert smoking?
Yeah, and then this film, it has its moments, but admittedly it's not a really good movie, and Roger Ebert was like, oh, it's so deep and dark, and it's like a really good superhero film. What? I don't know. Roger Ebert gave Star Wars Episode 1 3.5 stars, so I think I've basically lost faith in the man.
Yeah.
Whatever small amount of faith I had to begin with.
Yeah.
I didn't have any.
I think, and I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, I'm really not, but I think as soon as Siskel passed away, Roger just went into a complete slump.
Yeah.
Producer Avi Arad called the film a financial flop, disaster at the box office, but declared Hulk's merchandising was successful enough to continue a sequel. This eventually led to rebooting the franchise with The Incredible Hulk, which we'll be talking about here in a few minutes.
By merchandising, do they mean those really cool Hulk fists that you could put on your hands and you punch people and it make noises? Because those were cool. That was the best thing that came out of this movie.
Does
anyone else remember those?
Yeah, I remember seeing
remember
commercials of them. Yeah, I remember seeing the commercials for them.
So we can attribute the really cool Hulk fists to there even being a sequel to this movie. It's good to know.
Yeah, as far as Mr. Ebert goes, Roger Ebert gave a largely positive review explaining Ang Lee is trying to actually deal with the issues in the story of the Hulk instead of simply cutting to brainless visual effects. Ebert also liked how the Hulk's movements resembled King Kong. Again, what is he smoking? He needs to take the pipe out of his mouth and put it in his ass.
Exactly.
Oh Lord. Yeah, the rest of it is mainly just the more critical reviews. So I guess Steve, did you even ever see these, or did you ever see the first one? Really?
I've never seen the first one. Yeah, the second one I actually caught while I was on my honeymoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the first.
I don't think you're really missing much of the first Hulk. I'd say watch it once.
Yep.
Just to see it, because it does it. Like, I really like the visual style of the movie, and there are a few cool action scenes, but the problem was just that there was so much going on at once, and it was just so poorly paced that you just get really bored, even though they're throwing so much plot at you that you just, it's almost hard to handle it, I guess.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as I said before in the intro when I was revealing the cast, I was like, Nick Nolte is in this? This doesn't seem like a movie that Nick Nolte would be in. I mean, he's been in plenty of other great films. He's reduced to being in a superhero film that isn't that great. I think
a lot of people were banking on this movie being really good. That's the thing, because it was in pre-production since the early 90s.
Yeah.
And everyone was expecting it to be so good, and then it just had
flopped.
such a bad script that it just kind of flopped.
Yeah. Well, again, you have so much pressure going off of X-Men in 2000, and then Spider-Man in 2002, and then Daredevil in 2003, which came out in February before this was even released. And Daredevil, I think, is the most underrated film of the Marvel franchise. Mike and I talked about that last episode.
I still have to get around to seeing that at some point.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, dude. Okay, if you go to bargain discount places like Mike does for video games, look for the director's cut, because the director's cut is a much better cut of that film. It's more involved with the story. The theatrical cut, it ties everything off, but not very neatly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are going to move on to the 2008 reboot. The Incredible Hulk is a 2008 superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character, the Hulk. It is directed by, Louis Leterrier.
I think it's Louis Leterrier, I think.
Yeah.
It's French.
Yeah. What have the French ever done for us? Well, Americans.
Hey, I'm French.
Americans, anyway. I mean, like French people from France. Not,
Well,
not, not
they're all
French
pretty
Canadians.
useless, and that's including myself.
Oh, come on now. Uh,
I'm just kidding.
yeah, and it stars Edward Norton as Dr. Bruce Banner, the Hulk. It is not a sequel to Hulk 2003, rather a reboot that establishes a new backstory where Banner became the Hulk as an unwitting pawn of a military scheme to reinvigorate the Super Soldier program through gamma radiation. On the run, he attempts to cure himself of the Hulk before he's captured by General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, played by William Hurt. His worst fears are realized when power-hungry soldier Emil Blonsky, played by Tim Roth, becomes Abomination. Liv Tyler also stars as Betty Ross, Banner's girlfriend and General Ross's daughter. Marvel Studios reacquired the rights to the character after mixed reception to Hulk, and writer Zach Penn began work on a loose sequel that would be much closer to the comics and the television series. Norton rewrote the script after he signed on to star. Okay. Now,
It's interesting that Norton actually worked on a version of the script, although he wasn't credited for it.
He was credited for it. I mean, he was taking credit for it in every interview I saw him in.
Well, but I mean, on the actual movie, when it says written by, it doesn't include Edward Norton because apparently the Writers Guild didn't want to give him credit because it wasn't different enough from the previous version, I guess. I guess it has to differentiate itself enough in order for him to earn his credit.
I guess. I mean, I've seen Edward Norton in a couple other films. I know people are going to crucify me when I say this, but I've never actually seen Fight Club. I've heard about it, I've seen clips, but it's not my kind of movie, I guess. I'm not saying anything bad about Fight Club. I don't want people to start calling in on our voicemail line saying, we're going to come kill you because you don't like Fight Club. That's not the case. I've never just had any interest in the film either way, whether it's good or it's bad. I don't know. I know he was in Rounders with Matt Damon. He's been in a bunch of other stuff, so I know he's a good actor, but he's a fairly young actor. I don't see a lot of young actors co-writing or even rewriting scripts and acting and stuff as well. I mean, I know Tom Cruise does all kinds of crap now, but he's getting up there in age.
Yeah, I think Edward Norton is really smart from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for that guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad guy or a bad actor at all. I'm not saying anything against him, man. I just don't see him as a actor slash producer slash co-writer slash director at this point in his career. I don't even know how old the guy is. I think he seems like he's still very young. Like
I don't think he's that young actually. I think he's like I know he's in his 30s probably.
Yeah, he's probably mid-30s.
Yeah.
But still, that is still fairly young when it comes to Hollywood, considering, you know, most of the women are 50 and they look like they're 25.
Yeah, yeah. I always get a shock whenever I'm like attracted to an actress or something, and then I look up her age, and I was like, born 1973. Really? Jeez.
Oh boy. The film outgrossed its predecessor and generally received more positive reviews. Despite its positive reception, Marvel chose to put off a possible sequel until after 2012's The Avengers. As of April 6, 2009, the film has grossed $264 million in worldwide box office, and it made $85,755,000 in home video sales, bringing its total film gross to $350 million. Okay, Dave, why don't you... Go ahead.
I was going to say, it made it like a little bit more than the previous one, but it wasn't really that much. It was like $50 million more in total. So it wasn't like a huge difference. I think it was just because this one came right off of the heels of Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people were still... I think Iron Man was still in the theater at the time, in a lot of theaters, and people just didn't really care as much about this one.
Yeah.
Especially because of how poorly received the first Hulk film was, and people were afraid of having the same kind of theater experience.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. Why don't you, if you can, summarize this one for us?
Okay, this one I've seen more, and I liked it more, so I actually remember it
Cool.
a little bit more. So basically, it's kind of a reboot slash sequel because the last film left us off where Bruce Banner was in the Amazon jungle, and that's where this one picks up, where he's been kind of running around for 5 years, trying to avoid the government, until accidentally he cuts himself and gets a little drop of blood in one of the bottles. He works in like a juice bottling plant down there,
Right.
and basically probably one of the best Stan Lee cameos I've ever seen, where he plays an ill-fated consumer that drinks one of these bottles and ends up dying in probably the most comical way possible, where when in the theater I was in, no one could stop laughing at that part, especially the people who knew who Stan Lee was.
Yeah.
And so basically the government finds out where he is. They send kind of a strike team down there led by Tim Roth as Emil Blonsky, and he kind of, Bruce Banner triggers himself to become the Hulk again and ends up killing all these guys except for Blonsky, who just barely survives. And basically he goes, Blonsky is like obsessed with revenge and decides to inject himself with this super soldier serum that Betty Ross's father has been working on. And so the Hulk comes back to America again, and this is where I kind of get fuzzy. I think he goes and searches for Betty or something, and then they attack him at her university where she's working.
Right. Right.
And then they escape and go off together. And I think
Banner again makes contact with Mr. Blue, who urges them to travel to New York City to meet him.
There we go. Yeah. So basically, they meet up with this guy who says he has like a cure for them.
Right.
And but at the same time, he's been saving. Like Bruce sent him a blood sample for him to test it, but he's been keeping all these blood samples and like duplicating it because he wants to like sell it to make these superhumans or whatever. And so apparently, whatever he does to Bruce doesn't work, because later on they get captured, and Bruce has to like jump out of a helicopter in order to trigger another response to become the Hulk again.
Right.
And like just before he hits the ground, he turns back into the Hulk, and at the same time, Blonsky convinces
Ross.
Mr. Blue, I forget what his actual name is.
It's let's see.
Something or other.
Oh, where is it? I just had it. He turns out to be cellular biologist Dr. Samuel Stearns, played by
Samuel
Tim
Stern, that's who it is, who ends up becoming the leader later on.
Right.
But basically, he convinces Dr. Stern to give him an injection of the same stuff that made Bruce Banner into the Hulk, which ends up turning him into the Abomination, who is one of the bigger Hulk villains in the comic book, who basically is like the Hulk, that he's a really big green, kind of more of a dark grayish-green character that also keeps his intelligence as well. And so the Hulk and him have kind of this final battle together, which is probably one of the best parts of the movie, which was actually shot on Bloor Street right up here in Toronto, which is really cool. And
I'm surprised the Bloor Street Cinema survived that fight.
Yeah, I know. So actually, the Bloor Street Cinema is the Apollo Theater in the movie.
Oh, cool.
So whenever you see the Apollo Theater on the side of the screen, that's actually the Bloor Street Cinema. They just kind of redecorated the marquee on the outside.
Cool.
Which is kind of interesting. But Hulk ends up defeating the Abomination, and then he kind of just ends up exiling himself to British Columbia. And then at the end, there's kind of a little epilogue scene featuring the
Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, or no, this one isn't Samuel Jackson. This one is Samuel Jackson was an Iron Man. And
that's right. That's right. And
this one features Tony Stark.
Yep, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Although I still think that scene should have came after the credits, but I guess they're trying to get people more pumped up for the upcoming Avengers movie.
Yeah. At the time, okay, that was last year's. See, I don't see how they could be trying to pump people up for the Avengers movie. It's not coming till 2012. So you're going to try to pump people up 4 years ahead of time? I could see maybe a year and a half to 2 years ahead of the actual release of that film. I don't know. Overall,
it's probably because Marvel, now that Marvel Studios is owning the rights to all their own movies, they're trying to kind of interconnect them all.
Right.
So they're bringing characters from each movie into the other movies. Like, I even heard a rumor, I'm not sure if this is true, but Iron Man 2 supposedly will also feature a cameo of Edward Norton as the Hulk, or just as Bruce Banner.
Yeah. Now I saw, I don't know if it was a special feature. When I originally saw this film, I just went to a red box and got it and just said the heck with it. I was like, I don't know, it was last year when Monopoly was still going on at McDonald's. I got a bunch of hash browns, went to Redbox, got this, took it home and watched it. At first I wasn't too impressed with it. I'm probably going to have to go back and watch it now that we've been talking about it. Was Lou Ferrigno at all? Were his facial expressions used at all in the actual Hulk CGI?
I'm not sure, actually. Possibly.
Because I know
for sure he did the voice of the Hulk.
Right. Oh, okay. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Because I know Lou himself has a cameo in the film.
Yeah, he plays
The security guard.
He played a security guard in the first Hulk, and he plays another one in this one as well.
Right, right. I think that's really good that they do that, regardless whether Marvel owns the rights or not. At least, like with Stan popping up in all the Marvel movies, which of course he's going to pop up in all of them. And I like actually trying to spot him. It's kind of funny. Because he'll, like you said, this is probably the best one so far, of him dying from drinking the poison juice.
Yeah. That, and I like the one in, I think it was X-Men 3 as well, where he's like a guy who's watering his lawn.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
That one was pretty funny as well.
I think my favorite Stan Lee pop-up in a Marvel film is probably the one in Daredevil where young Matt Murdock saves him from getting hit by a car when he's trying to cross the street. Yeah, so you'll have to go out and watch Daredevil.
Yep. Maybe I'll do that tonight, actually. Or no, because I have to gather news tonight. Crap. I'll do it at some point. I'll find time.
Going into the cast of this... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you can go. You can talk about the cast.
Oh, well, I mean, if you had something to say, you can go ahead and say it.
I was just going to talk about like what I did or didn't like about the movie, but...
Oh, well, we can say that till the end.
Yeah,
we'll say that till the end. So, as far as the cast goes, you have Edward Norton in the role of Dr. Bruce Banner / the Hulk. I liked it. I don't know. I'm kind of torn between his performance and Banner's performance from the first film. I don't know which one I liked better. I think I liked him better I liked Norton in the Banner role in here rather than the other film as far as, Eric Bana. But I don't know if I actually liked him as Hulk. See, because originally I thought, like I said, that Lou Ferrigno was the face of the Hulk, but it says here he voices the Hulk during the 2008 New York Comic Con. Leterrier publicly offered Ferrigno the chance to voice the Hulk for the film. This marks the third time Ferrigno portrayed the Hulk, having also voiced the character in the 1996 animated series. Originally, the Hulk's... Go ahead.
So that's pretty cool that they brought him back like that. And
yeah,
I have to say, I also preferred Norton's version of Bruce Banner, because I think he cared about the character more, and the fact that he rewrote the script himself, it shows how much he really cares about this character.
Oh,
and also Norton was he was considered for the role in the first movie as well, but he turned it down because he didn't really like the script.
Yeah,
so you can tell he really likes the Hulk as a character, and he gets it. Like, he gets what's going on with this person as like a dual kind of half man, half monster. But he was just waiting for sort of the right script to come along.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. I'm just trying to look between the two scripts of... Oh, okay. Sam Elliott played him in the first film. I was trying to compare the two versions of General Ross, Betty Ross's father. And in the second film, he is played by William Hurt, which I think I like Hurt's version better. I don't know. It had more emotion to it, I think. While Sam Elliott is a great actor, William Hurt actually brought more to the General's role, I thought.
Yeah, Elliot's version seemed more like he was just kind of angry all the time.
Yeah.
This William Hurt seemed more like he had actual motivation to it.
Right. And as far as, as we said before, majority of us, well, I don't know about Steve because he hasn't seen the first film, but between you and I, we both prefer Connolly over Tyler for Betty. I don't know, her performance just didn't feel real to me enough for the character that she's trying to play.
Yeah, although she didn't really hurt the film.
No.
I almost would have preferred if they had brought Connolly back. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
What'd you say, Steve?
Well, I was just going to say that she didn't really have that strong of a performance at all in the movie anyway, but that could have just been the way it was written.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you had Tim Roth as Emil Blonsky / The Abomination. I thought that was really good casting for a villain.
Yeah, because you don't really see Tim Roth in this kind of, like, blockbuster like sci-fi action movie like this.
Yeah.
Like normally he's in kind of weirder, more independent movies. He's in a lot of like Tarantino stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't see him in stuff like this, but he did a really good job.
Oh yeah, I mean he did. Obviously the Abomination is a CGI type character, and you really can't tell that Roth is in there as far as maybe other than the voice, but as far as his human form, I really like the way he portrayed the Blonsky character as far as being enraged and wanting revenge and wanting, just being jealous. I thought that was really played out very well.
Yeah, and he felt like a real villain. Like he didn't feel like he was just kind of hamming it up. Yep. Like I understood this person's motivations, which is really cool.
Yeah. It has. When I got the notes for this, I got a excuse me. Part of Wiki sometimes will show the production images, and the images here. The Incredible Hulk is influenced by the TV series of the same name. Above is Edward Norton, and below is Bill Bixby, both sitting in similar chairs. And I think that's really cool that they're trying to not really reboot the TV series onto the big screen, but they're taking aspects from it, like obviously bringing in Lou Ferrigno for the voice, and all that kind of stuff there.
Yeah, really, and I think Bill Bixby actually had a cameo in this as well.
I think he did.
I really like how this movie balanced out how it was influenced by the TV show and the comics, and still it was sort of a sequel to the first movie if you ignore the whole origin during the opening credits, but it could also be taken as its own film as well. So it does a lot of things at once, and it worked out well.
Yeah, and I like this story much better than the whole, oh, my father abused me and experimented on me, and which I'm not saying that that's good at all. I just don't think that is a good origin story for the Hulk, showing a father who experiments on his son. I think that's where the 2003 version really went wrong. Because that's just wrong to me. It's something you should not do in cinema, is show like really, really horrible abusive situations.
Yeah, I preferred this version, especially since it didn't focus on the Hulk's origin. It basically just gives you the origin in the first 3 to 5 minutes while the credits are rolling. It just shows you in images. It doesn't even have people talking during that time. It's just showing you images of this is how he became the Hulk. And then after that, it just continues on with the actual plot where the Hulk has been hiding from the government for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, it can be taken as its own film. You don't have to see the 2003 version, but if you do see the 2003 version, they both complement each other at the same time. So, it did a good job of being a reboot and a sequel at the same time, which is a really hard thing to pull off, obviously.
Oh, yes. And before we get into the whole release information, what are your overall impressions of the Incredible Hulk?
Personally, I really, really liked the film. In a lot of ways, I actually liked it more than Iron Man, which I think I'm one of the only people that actually feels this way.
That's blasphemy, sir.
Sorry, but I don't know. I like this movie a lot more than a lot of people I know, I guess. And it's just, and not just because it's better than the original. Obviously, if you compare anything to the 2003 Hulk, it's probably going to be better. It's really good as its own film. It had really good writing. It had a really good plot that wasn't too convoluted like the original. It was just, it was straightforward. It was action packed, but without being stupid action. It was still, the intelligence was still there, and it was just a really well written, well directed, and well acted film. It was
Oh,
entertaining all around. So
oh yes, very much so. You will not see no crouching Hulk, hidden tiger.
yeah, yeah.
As far as the release information, one of the executive vice president of Universal Studios, Stephanie Sperber, had this to say: "We know the Hulk from 2003 didn't satisfy the fans. That we had to acknowledge that. We emphasized the passion that the fans still have for this character, and that this was the movie people have always wanted." I would agree with that. I mean, I think that this is a good version of the Hulk as far as the origin story, and as we said before, the actual overall plot of the movie is much better. Again, as we've said before, we would have preferred seeing Jennifer Connelly in the Betty Ross role rather than Liv Tyler, but hey, what are you gonna do?
And it felt more like the comic just kind of leaping to the screen. Like it felt like they stayed true to their roots, but while taking it into the 21st century, I guess.
Right. And apparently, according to this, 70 minutes of footage, mostly dealing with the origin, were not included in the final cut. Much of this backstory was unscripted, and the filmmakers were never sure of including it into the final cut and had considered releasing some of these clips on the internet. Editor Kyle Cooper, creator of the Marvel logo with the flipping pages, and the montage detailing Iron Man's biography in that film, edited together much of this footage into the opening credits. Leterrier explained a negative test screening where the flashbacks were placed across the film that the audience found too similar to Hulk had resulted in compressing these to the film's start. This replaced the original opening where Banner comes to the Arctic to commit suicide. Leterrier said he did not want this scene to be lost amid the opening montage. Um, again, that's what DVD is all about. If you have, any amount of footage, whether it be 70 minutes, whether it be 6 minutes, whatever, you can always put that in on a DVD as a deleted scene or an alternate ending. I mean, there's so much you can do with DVD market nowadays with stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't put this footage on there. I remember hearing that there was a whole bunch of footage for this movie that they didn't use, and I'm kind of glad they didn't use it because it would have it would have convoluted the movie too much, and it would have felt too much like the original Hulk, where
Right.
there was too much happening at once. And I like how they cut it down into short clips in the first 5 minutes of the film, and it cuts to the chase, and it does a good job. But again, like you said, it would have been nice to be able to see the full origin story footage on the DVD, or
Yeah.
even as its own separate short film. Like if they had a bonus disc for the DVD that included like a 70-minute short film or actually that would almost be like a feature-length film that was
Yeah.
just the origin of the Hulk with using all this extra footage.
Yeah.
It would have been an interesting thing to try and release.
I know that there were we all know that you get single disc, two disc, um, digital copies, there's Blu-ray now. I know that they had released a 3-disc special limited edition or special edition of this film on DVD, and maybe it's on there. I don't know. I don't own it. Maybe I'm gonna have to break.
I know the third disc was just a digital copy.
Oh, okay.
So it's more or less like a 2-disc version.
Right, right.
It's with the additional digital copy added to that. But I don't think it included the footage, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know I own the 1-disc version. It has deleted scenes on it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. It doesn't include all this additional origin story stuff. It's just additional little scenes that happen throughout the film.
Oh, okay. The film was nominated for Best Superhero Film at the 2008 National Movie Awards and for Best Science Fiction Film at the Saturn Awards, which, again, wow, a Hulk film nominated for an award. Who would have guessed? But I guess it was that good to get nominated for awards. That's cool. The film was number one in sales when released on DVD and Blu-ray on October 21st, 2008 in the United States, having been available in the United Kingdom since October 13th. There is widescreen and full-screen single-disc editions, a 3-disc special edition, and 2-disc Blu-ray package. The first disc contains an audio commentary by Leterrier and Roth, while the second comes with a special features and deleted scenes, and the third with a digital copy, like you said. The Blu-ray edition compresses the content of the first 2 DVD discs into one, while the second disc contains the digital copy. Package features a green border, marking the first time that Blu-ray case for the film is not blue. So far, it has made $86 million in home video sales, bringing its total film gross to close to $350 million, which, as we've said before, isn't much more than the original, or the 2003 version, but at least it wasn't a box office flop like the 2003 version.
And I think they spent a lot less money on this movie, especially since it wasn't in development as long. So they made a much higher profit off of it. And Marvel is making a really smart move now by producing their own movies and bringing them all into kind of the same universe. So now we have the Thor movie that's coming out, the Ant-Man movie, Iron Man 2, and eventually the Captain America and Avengers movies that will have all of these characters together. And it's all taking place within the same universe, and all the plots from each movie will eventually kind of tie together, which is really cool. I think that's really awesome that Marvel has decided to do that.
Yes.
So 2008 for me was like the year of awesome summer Hollywood movies, because you had The Dark Knight, you also had Iron Man and the Hulk, which are both amazing Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then this year kind of sucked for that in that respect.
Yeah,
we had Wolverine, and that kind of sucked.
Yeah. I did eventually. At first I said, as far as Wolverine goes, I know we're still talking about the Hulk, but as far as Wolverine goes, when I first heard about it, I'm like, whatever. It doesn't. Even though Hugh Jackman was back, it just didn't seem like the right way for a Wolverine movie to go. And then, of course, one night, I don't know, 2 a.m., I went to a Redbox and I got it. And I thought it was all right, but it wasn't the best in the world. Let's see.
It could have been handled a lot better, but if you go to the Twig website, we did a commentary for that, and we had a whole episode about it. So
yeah.
We discussed everything we liked and didn't like about the film. So I'm kind of sick of talking about that one.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of sick of talking about it. Kevin Feige said that the film met Marvel's expectations and that Hulk will return, but after the crossover, which I'm assuming is the Avengers movie. Hurd is not concerned that the sequel may not be produced until at least 2012 onwards, citing that the positive reception to the film and having produced the Terminator series in the second and third film of which had 12-year gap, it has been rumored that Edward Norton will reprise his role as the Hulk in a cameo role towards the end of Iron Man 2 as a lead-up to 2012's The Avengers. Tim Roth has confirmed that Marvel has signed him for 3 more films. Okay, well, if Roth has been signed for 3 more films, is that 3 Hulk films? Or is that just 3 films in general where he could show up as any character anywhere?
I think it's just 3 films in general, because he'll probably show up in the Avengers movie, I'm guessing.
As who?
As the Abomination, because I don't think he dies at the end of the Incredible Hulk, does he?
I don't think so, no.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive, so he could show up in the Avengers movie as one of the villains.
Right.
And who knows, he might even have a cameo in one of the other Marvel films.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping they make an Incredible Hulk too, but again, they're not looking at doing that until after they're done the Avengers, which is a pretty smart move.
Oh, yeah.
Good idea to focus on all this other stuff, get that out of the way, and then you can work on making a third Hulk movie, which hopefully will have the leader in it, since he's kind of hinted at the very end of this movie.
Yeah. What was I going to say? It's funny now that with the acquisition Disney has made of Marvel. It's funny now that I think of all these new Marvel movies that are going to be coming out. I often think, are we going to see like somebody like just like an extra walking down the street in the background with a Mickey Mouse comic book or something like that? I don't know.
I don't think Disney's really going to affect Marvel that much.
Oh,
Like,
I don't think either.
They basically stated that they own them, so they're getting money off of it, but they're pretty much staying out of their affairs.
Yeah, I think
as far as I know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same as what they do with Pixar. They let Pixar do what they want to do, and they just market it themselves.
Well, mostly, except for when it comes to Cars 2.
Well,
Pixar didn't want to make a Cars 2 at all. Disney was basically like, okay, we made so much money off of the first Cars that if you guys don't make a Cars 2, then we're going to make a Cars 2, and we don't care about the quality, we're just going to make it. So Pixar was like, okay, fine, we'll make it, and I guess they're going to try and make it as good as they can, although the first Cars, admittedly, was probably the worst Pixar film. So, did it deserve a sequel? No, not at all.
Steve, you've been awfully quiet over there. You didn't fall asleep again, did you?
No.
Good, because we have more work to do after this episode is over. So final thoughts on both films, Dave. Me, because I haven't seen them, and it was last year that I saw The Incredible Hulk, and yeah, I remember it the most, but it's been so long since I've seen the 2003 version. What are your final thoughts as far as both of them?
Say the first Hulk, it was bad, but it's not horrible. It's just it had more bad things than it did good things, I guess, and it's almost like they got too ambitious, and they were just trying to juggle too many things at once, and they just kind of dropped the ball. And with the second movie, they made it simpler, more fast-paced, more action, and it just worked. It felt like I was just watching an entertaining comic book movie, and it's not the best comic book movie in the world, but it's, for like a summer blockbuster film like that, it's really good.
Right. Do you, before we go into the official closing, do you have anything that you want to plug, anything that you're working on, like maybe you're writing, or I don't know if you can actually plug any Twig stuff of what you guys have coming up. I don't know. We usually ask Mike to do that because he's, I don't know, I guess the boss.
He's a better plug guy.
Well, no, it's not really a better plug guy, but he has I don't normally know what you guys like you and Stefan and Pierce are always up to, because you guys really don't put your lives out there like Mike does. I mean,
yeah.
Mike basically pimps himself out everywhere all over the internet, and I'm not saying that against him at all, but it's just the truth.
Yeah. Well, we have basically coming up this week, we're starting our new season 4, where we'll have our topic show and our news show will be separated. So the news show is going to be longer. We don't have to compress our news as much into the first half an hour of the show. And then the topic show will also be shorter because it won't have the news tagged onto it. So that'll be about an hour long instead of like an hour and a half. So
why not just crunch 30? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, what?
No, go ahead. I'll ask you afterwards. Go ahead.
So it'll just be a better thing to have those two things separated, which I can't believe we didn't think of this before. But so that's coming up, season 4. It'll be exciting. Our first episode will be on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
I've been doing a lot of research for that because I didn't actually grow up with the Ninja Turtles.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of weird. Yeah, I just never really got into it as a kid.
Wow. What kind of time warp did you live in, dude?
I don't know.
All right. So, thank you for joining us here on Movie Week in Review. There are several ways to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show. The first is you can visit www.geekcastradio.com and find all the other podcasts there. The second is you can stop by PredaconEmpire.com/CafeSpark and get all your GCRN Transformers discussion topics there. Those are our forums. The third is you can leave the show feedback on iTunes. I'd like to take a minute to talk about this. I don't have the numbers with me. I'm not sure if Steve does or not. I think the last time I looked at the M-Wire numbers from the file that you had sent me, Steve, it was like I don't know, 15, 20 subscribers. So, if you are listening to this show, please give us 5-star feedback would be preferred, and positive reviews. We have no reviews on iTunes for this show. So let us know what you like, what you don't like. We'll work on it. I mean, we're still fairly a young show. We're only up to 14 episodes already. So that's the iTunes pitch. The fourth is you can visit the www.earth-2.net forums and find our threads for the shows in the self-promotion section. And the fifth is the email address, which is gcrnmwire@gmail.com. You can also head over to thisweekingeek.net and find all the Twig stuff over there, featuring Dave, Stefan, Steve Snowball Sailor, which he's taken a leave of absence, I think, and Mike the Birdman Dodd, as well as Pierce the Punk Dirks, which I haven't heard Pierce on the show a lot lately. Where's he been?
He's been busy with all sorts of things, and with like different projects and stuff. I think currently he's been working on a new song that he's been recording, actually. But he'll be joining us for our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode, which Stefan won't be on that because Stefan also didn't grow up with the Ninja Turtles, which is kind of weird.
Oh boy.
Both had very strange childhoods.
Very sheltered lives.
So that'll be me, Mike, and Pierce on that episode.
Oh, cool. We now have a voicemail line. Call us and leave us your thoughts on each episode. Be sure to say which show you're leaving the message for and your name. The number is 502-526-5821. You can also follow us on Twitter. The show name there is GCRNMwire. Mine is TFD1Mike. And Dave, what is your Twitter, sir?
David_Dennis.
Yes, and Steve, what is yours? Yeah, that's yours, Dave.
SCP-21.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The M-Wire and wish that you'll join us next time. We'll be reviewing in the Marvel Spotlight Iron Man. Hopefully, Mike can join us for that show. For now, I am TFD1Mike with David Double D Dennis and Steve Megatron Phillips. Saying the immortal words of Elizabeth Shue, don't fuck with the babysitter, and thank you for listening. Until next time.
I've got a problem. There are aspects of my personality that I can't control.
See a shrink?
It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Bruce, trust me when I tell you, I've heard them all.
Not this one.
We've never seen anything even close to your levels of exposure.
That you survived an event like that, it's beyond my comprehension.
I don't want to control it. I want to get rid of it.
As far as I'm concerned, that man's whole body is property of the U.S. Army.
They want it as a weapon. If we let it go, we will never get it back.
There's only one thing that can fight that. It's in me.
Maybe if I can control it,
I can use it.